Welcome to Dana and Dave's Garage, and in this video we're going to be looking at diagnosing a no start condition on this 2013 Infiniti G37X. Alright, now for some context. So the car doesn't want to start, and allegedly my mom said that the car started to run rough, barely wanted to start, until eventually it would crank but not start at all, and then it was towed into this garage. So we're going to verify that the car doesn't want to start. Got the keys in my hand. I'm gonna hit the buttons. Well, and the car doesn't want to start. First step on these new cars is to scan it for codes and see if anything pops up. The code scanner that I'm using is an AutoFix D1, which is a pretty neat bidirectional scan tool, so I can actually talk to the modules within the car and have them run hot functions and such. So I'm gonna go ahead, read the codes, and we're gonna see what pops up. My code scanner has pulled up some codes. There's a good list of codes right there. I'm really interested in the engine codes, and the one that comes up here is a U1001, which is the CAN-COM circuit. It allegedly just means somewhere in the vehicle the CAN bus system has lost communication to the modules, which is unfortunate because it's pretty hard to diagnose. But it doesn't actually give us really any information to work off of. So, like a typical car, and we're going to go through the air, fuel, and spark, try and make sure that we have all three of those. And I think the easiest one to test first is going to be the fuel, because on this code scanner, I can actually trigger the fuel pump to make sure that the fuel pump is going. And then we can use a fuel pressure tester to make sure that there's adequate fuel pressure. And then from there, we can move on to other things. And for even additional context, we can see this car has almost 180,000 miles on the clock. And this car has actually been very good to my mom. So I have my AutoFix D1 in front of me, and we already read the codes. And what I want to do now is go to active test, and I want to try the fuel pump relay, just to make sure that the fuel pump is actually turning on when it's supposed to turn on. So we're going to go through here, look at all these things, and put the fuel pump relay. So, okay. And now this gives us an option to turn on the fuel pump on and off. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And I don't hear anything with the fuel pump. You guys might also be able to hear it, but there's nothing going on with the fuel pump. We'll put it on and off. And it might be tough to hear, but there actually is a relay clicking. Power should be going on to the fuel pump, but the fuel pump is not turning on. Alright, since we're not getting any action with the fuel pump, I want to go ahead and verify that there's actually 12 volts going to the fuel pump when the relay is clicked on. Alright, so the fuel pump is located on the passenger side of the vehicle underneath the seat, and it's actually incredibly easy to take off. You just pull this tab here on the passenger side, and then also on the driver's side, and the rear seat comes right out. And then we have these little tabs that just rotate, and this cover pops off. So here's the fuel pump, the outlet for the fuel pump, and then here we have the sending unit. So I have my multimeter set up for the DC current, and I'm going to stick my positive probe onto this wire and my negative probe onto the black wire, which they're the thickest wires here, and that's what I imagine is actually giving it 12 volts. So on our computer, we're going to go ahead and turn the fuel pump on, and we should see 12 volts going to the harness. Alright, there we go. On the wiring harness, we have 12.3 volts, which is more than enough to actually turn on the fuel pump. But we verified there's power going to this unit. Now we could double check that there isn't any fuel pressure coming out of this fuel pump. And then if that's the case, we can go ahead and see if we can actually replace it. In order to test the fuel pressure, I'm going to use this deluxe fuel injection service kit from Harbor Freight, and this has a fuel pressure gauge that we can use here in a bunch of different fittings so that we can plug everything in and then see what rating we get. And for this, I'm going to do it And for this, I'm going to test the car when it's trying to start. That way we can get it into the most real life condition and verify that the fuel pump is not turning on at all. Alright, so I went ahead and just got a whole new fuel pump assembly. This comes with a new sensor as well, and a new float, and we also have a new gasket here, which I'm going to put on. And what we're going to do is plop it into the gas tank, reconnect the fuel line, plug this back in, and we should be good to test out if this actually fixed our problem. Alright, so our new fuel pump is installed and plugged in. We have all the bolts surrounding it. Also, you don't have to tighten these up way too much because they're super small. And we'll clean this up and then do a quick smoke test. I don't have the back seat in because I want to see if there's any fuel leaks or anything. And then we'll button everything up. So, now goes nothing. Well, it started, but it didn't stay started. That might be a problem. Alright, we got some more work to do, and... Alright, the car is running now, and it turns out all I had to do was let the fuel pump run for a little bit so that it would get all the air out of the system, and now it runs.